Greetings and welcome back to another British Guy Reacts video, and in this video a British guy is going to be reacting to 5 ways British and American meal etiquette is very different. I'm Mr H and I'm on a mission to learn all things USA. If that sounds good and you're new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe with notification bell on, because I'm posting every Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Now listen my jibber jabber, let's get on with it.
If they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to how we eat, dining etiquette. It's so important, especially when you're meeting your American family for the first time. I'm not talking from experience, maybe just a bit.
I didn't realise there'd be a difference. I genuinely didn't think there'd be a difference. Over here, I eat the wrong way round, if that makes sense. A bit like us, we drive on the wrong side of the road to you guys. I actually eat left-handed, if that makes sense. So my fork is in my right hand, my knife is in my left. My wife is exactly the same, and my family used to say I was something called cack-handed. But yes, that's the only sort of difference. But I didn't realise there'd be different etiquette at meals. Anyway, I'll shut up. Let's get back to it.
Cultural differences around the dinner table don't just come down to the words we use, like chips versus fries, or the dishes that we serve. So, you know, America's pecan pie versus Britain's spotted dick. And that is an actual dessert, okay? Look it up, just not on your work computer. But it's also about some of the mechanisms that we use to get it into our mouths. I'm still talking about food. And also some of the customs and politeness norms that comes with the process of eating. And so without further crab rangoon, here are 5 ways that British and American eating etiquette is very, very different. Whether you call it cutlery, like we do in Britain, or silverware or flatware, or in this case plasticware, because, you know, we
Flatware?
are rationing, we can all agree that without them, meal times would be very, very messy, especially in America where they put sauce on everything. But the real question is, how do we hold them? And this was part of my existential crisis after I moved to the United States, because I grew up learning the European style, or as it might be known here, the continental style. And when I say that, I'm referring to what is the official utensil etiquette, right? As opposed to the official American etiquette. And I'm going to show you, I think anyway, some of the differences. I personally don't have either etiquette completely down, because in my wife's words, I still eat like a toddler. It mostly comes down to how we hold the fork. In Britain, you hold it kind of like that, I think. So you've got it, the end of it's touching your palm, and then you sort of grasp it with your thumb and your pointy finger, and it's there for pointing downward, right? And you stick it into the potatoes or the strawberries or the spotted dick. And notice it's in my left hand. That's going to be important in a moment. And in the other hand, you have your knife, right? Usually like this, with the pointy finger right there, and it's touching your palm again. So consistent on both hands, right? It's almost an extension of you. You're almost Wolverine, but from the United Kingdom or Europe. And then you do this, right? Usually at a lower level. You wouldn't be able to see it because my arms are off screen now, so I'll put them back there. And then you cut into the potatoes or the strawberries or the creamy spotted dick. I mean, you can come with custard. That's normal. And voila, and put it in your mouth. There's nothing on this. This isn't that scene in Hook where they eat invisible food. It goes this way round, right? With the tines facing downward toward your tongue. In America, it's quite a bit different, right? So people will hold their fork like this, with the tines facing upward.
I do that. I do both. I didn't realise, mind you, I don't really study how I eat. Again, I probably eat a bit more like an animal.
In other words, to kind of scoop up the food, right? So they'll do that, and actually sometimes, not every time, I mean, I'm sure there are people that circumvent all of the things you hear in this very list, but sometimes Americans won't even use a knife, right? You'll just see them scoop something up, maybe a potato, we won't go through the entire list again, put it in their mouth. If they want to cut up things in that way, sometimes they'll do it with the fork, right? Yeah. Don't recommend it with plastic forks. You know, you can get through these pretty quickly if you do that. But if they do use a knife, they may turn the fork like this into the potato and then cut like that. You've got it there, you turn it back around, it's in your gob, and there you go. Bob's your uncle, you've got potatoes. And, you know, that's what a lot of Americans do. My father-in-law, though, did this. He had it like that and like that. He'd turn it that way, and then like that. It sort of looked, I should tell you that my in-laws were cavemen. But it was through those very cavemen / dear relatives of my wife that I was first introduced to our next entry.
Saying grace, yes. That's quite a big thing. You always see it on TV shows. I think that's a really nice thing to do. We don't really do it here. Whether you're religious or not, it's always a good thing to do anyway, to just be appreciative of the food you're having, you know. So yeah, we don't do it over here.
Yes, saying grace. This one is quite a tough entry in many ways because, you know, in order to talk about it, I do have to somewhat generalise. And also, I don't have much data to back up what I'm about to say. It's more observationally driven, right? So when I lived in England for 27 years of my life, I don't say that with disdain, it was a good time. But in all that time, I don't really remember sitting down to a dinner function of any kind and really sort of saying grace beforehand. In other words, kicking off the meal with a sort of faith-based thanks. Now, part of that, and again, this is where the generalisation comes in, so bear with me, but in England, we tend to be less sort of like publicly open or just sort of even privately open, if you can be, among your family members about your religious beliefs. Whereas in the United States, I think people are more sort of proud of that, whatever their religious faith is. And so sometimes in some families, and this again could be regional, so I might well be generalizing, but some families, including the extended relatives that I married into, I didn't marry them, I married into the family. Some families, and I gather maybe quite a lot of families here in the United States, particularly at special events like Thanksgiving or maybe even a homecoming of some kind, will sort of say grace before the meal. And there'll usually be one family member who stands up and says it on behalf of the entire group, and then you say amen and go about your way. For me, it was quite weird at first, I think. Now, I'm very respectful of other people's religious beliefs. I didn't really know what to do except just sort of sit there and then wait for it to be done. And then, because I had half a mind on the turkey.
I mean, I've never done grace or said grace, and I probably would be sort of sat there with my eyes closed and then sort of, again, I don't want to be disrespectful at all, but this is probably my mind working and be like, I'd have to sort of open one eye and just say, you know, is it finished? Does it finish with like amen? Or because I don't want to still be sort of there and everyone else starts eating, I'm still like that. And again, I'm not being disrespectful. It's just my little brain process because I'm always getting things wrong, and I would want to be respectful. And you know, if you're welcome into someone's house, you know, you play by their rules because it's their house. Let me know in the comments. Is this something you do in your household? Do you say grace for every meal, or is it just dinner? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you are enjoying the video so far, don't forget to drop a like because it really helps me and the channel out.
So what you're going to do. And because I'm generalizing here, it's important for me to say that this is my experience. I'd be very interested to hear other people's experiences, other Europeans' experiences of coming here and maybe having to say grace when they're not used to it, or, you know, Americans that don't themselves practice this. I've also heard it can go one step further here where the whole family holds hands. You know, I definitely draw the line at that, especially right now. The best way that I can put this for British people watching back home is, you know, in football when, you know, somebody dies and they have a minute's silence within the stadium, and then when the minute's silence is up, they all erupt in applause and all of that. It's kind of like that, minus the applause, you know, it's just an amen. But the energy after that is great because you all want to tuck into your food. And because the energy's so good, that leads us on to our next entry. Oh, I don't mind a bit of chatter and exceptionally weird noises. And at an American dinner table, you're going to get a lot of chatter. Usually, again, this is another generalization, but on the whole, this is my experience. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Americans are always loud, as the stereotype dictates. But one exception tends to be in restaurants, right? I do hear the volume go up there as compared to Britain, where it feels like we're always battling with this war within ourselves to not air our dirty laundry in public. Yeah. I'm not saying we don't talk at dinner tables, don't get me wrong. It feels observationally, once again, and again, there's no data on this. There's not somebody going around measuring the decibels in every restaurant in either country, especially right now because they're all closed. But that's my general experience of it. Now, I could be getting thrown off course a little bit here because, you know, my wife's family are really loud. Don't tell them I said that, although this is a public video.
Like I say, I think there's a mix of loud Americans and also quiet Americans. I've got some really good friends who are Americans, not loud at all. Yeah, I always get a bit uneasy when it's like this stereotypical, just, yeah, it's yeah, a load of nonsense, really.
They know it's true. I've told them before, and that's why we've not spoken in a year. But here in America, you might be in a restaurant, sitting down with just one other person, trying to have a quiet, intimate conversation. And to your right, there's this really loud family with a 5-year-old running around with a stupid hat on that he got from the restaurant, right? So they're further enhancing the volume of said family. And then on the other side, there's clearly what is a date happening. And the woman is just sitting there quietly, looking quite glum, while the man very audibly and haphazardly talks about all of the Fortune 500 companies he's worked for. And she stares into space, presumably thinking of all the ways that she can get out of there. But on the other hand, once you do get used to that sort of raised volume, it does add to the atmosphere, you know. And if you're already in a good mood and you enter somewhere where thousands, that's a huge restaurant, hundreds maybe, where there's lots of people and they're in a good mood and it just sort of bounces off the walls, you know. But speaking of restaurants, that brings us on to our next entry.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that, like the buzz of a restaurant. Yeah, we do tend to be quite quiet over here because we kind of like, yeah, be quiet, no one wants to hear what you're saying kind of thing. But I kind of get that. You kind of bounce off each other with the buzz of the restaurant, you know, everyone's excited to eat, you know, people are out and stuff. So yeah, I get that. Server etiquette. So I'm presuming this is either in a restaurant, a waiter, or does that mean serving food in a household? You know, what we tend to do over here, if we're having like a Sunday roast, it's quite a big thing over here, Sunday roast, get the family together, but then like roast potatoes and veg, etc., you kind of help yourself in the middle and help yourself to gravy and stuff like that. Servers.
My heart does go out to all of the servers and anybody else to whom this applies around the world who can't go into work right now. And a huge thank you to delivery servers who are able to keep people fed who might need it. But, you know, back in peacetime when the restaurants were still open, there was quite a marked difference between, you know, British servers and American servers and the way they sort of conduct themselves at the dinner table while you're eating your dinner. In Britain, they're quite standoffish, and I know that's just a trait of British people in general, I get that, but they don't have the incentive, which we'll talk about in a minute, to constantly be coming back to your table and seeing how you're doing, checking if you need a refill on that water, because you probably won't get one anyway. I'm joking, of course you'll get a free refill on your water, just nothing else. Often, know this, if you want their attention, you're going to have to get their attention yourself, and that includes when it comes time to pay the bill. Whereas in the United States, and each restaurant has its different policy on this, you know, the waiting staff will come to your table every 5 minutes usually, just to see how you're doing.
Yeah, when I've eaten out, you know, the American servers are much more sort of attentive, and I know they're obviously living off the tips and they want to give a good service, etc., and it's very important to tip. But yeah, I have noticed quite a lot. You know, Americans are very sort of attentive. You know, if you are getting refills, they'll just come over and refill. How you doing? How you doing, sweetie or cutie? And they're always really, really good around children as well. So yeah, I've never had a bad experience eating out in America. I had quite a few over here though, but yes, different story.
And it seemingly doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a seriously one-sided conversation about the Fortune 500 companies you've worked for. They will still come over and go, hey, what's up? How's that tenderloin working out for you? And there are a couple of big reasons, I think, that American serving staff do this. Firstly, the company often dictates it. It's seen as a kind of data-driven way of, you know, having good customer service. But having good customer service could well dictate this.
Tip.
They tried antifreeze with that. No. Well, he might go back to his milk phase eventually. Yeah. So the dreaded tip, or at least it was dreaded to me when I first moved to America. Actually, when I landed at Philadelphia Airport, this is the first time I remember having to sort of navigate the American tipping system because I bought a drink at a bar at that very airport. And having bought the Jack Daniels, or 6, I'm not a good flyer. I turned to the gentleman next to me and I asked him, how does tipping work? And, you know, he very, very kindly offered, well, whatever the amount is on your receipt, just give them 85% of that. And that's about good. That's standard. That was a lie. And I ended up almost bankrupt. Firstly, in the United States, regardless of the amount, it's very much expected that you do tip because that's basically how servers make their wage. And the standard amount that you're expected to tip is the complete opposite of 85%. It's 15%, right? But if you thought it was good service, or just to be sort of a good person, really, you can definitely tip more than that. I typically tip. Just try saying that after 6 whiskeys. I did that night. I typically tip, particularly if I'm on a trip, 20%, or, you know, I might even round up to 21 if it kind of requires it. Tipping of some kind is expected here. In the UK, if you're thinking of going there, Firstly, don't do that right now, but if after all this blows over, you are fancying going to the UK, then you're not required to tip at all, right? I mean, people get paid a sort of living wage, more or less, for being a server in the UK. It's good practice. If you want to do that, you certainly can. 10% is recommended. And, growing up in the UK, I never really did tip all that often, I must say. I think if I were to live there now, I probably would do so a bit more. It's not expected. I mean, servers aren't going to expect you to tip. Although, if they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday, right? Whereas it's the other way round here. As soon as servers hear a British accent, they must be filled with dread. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe servers hear a British accent and think, he's ripe for manipulation. I've had some bad experiences.
Wow, what do you think of the video? What an absolutely cracker from the great Lawrence Brown of Lost in the Pond. What did you think of the video? Again, let me know. Do you say grace around the table? Have you been to the UK? Let me know if you have been to the UK and what were your experiences eating out, or if you've actually eaten with a UK family. Was it different? Did it feel different? Was there different eating styles or habits? I would absolutely love to hear from you. And again, if you are new to the channel and you like reaction videos, then don't forget to subscribe with the notification bell on, because I'm posting every Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. If you'd like to support the channel even more, check out the join and members section in the pinned comments for all the fun packed perks. And all that leaves me to say is take care, God bless, see you on the next video.